Tēnā koutou i ngā manuhiri, tuarangi kua tai mai nei ki te tōtoko i te kaupapa o te rā. Tēnā rā koutou. Welcome to Fruitvale School. On this site, as in all sites across New Zealand, we are looking to give the government a vision of where education could be if they actually took notice of what the educators need and say and have been thinking. In front of you we have LYNDA Stewart from NZEI, New Zealand Institute of Education. We have CHERIE TAYLOR-PATEL representing New Zealand Principals Federation. We have Kevin Bush representing the Auckland Primary Principals Association, and Martin will speak on behalf of the Waitakere Area Principals Association. We also have the tautoko from PPTA. They wanted to be here, but they weren't able to send anyway. We understood someone was coming, but they haven't arrived. So we're definitely talking for all of education, not just primary. So I'd like to introduce Kevin, and he's going to take it from here.
This year we are in the depths of a staffing crisis in our schools, in our Auckland schools. We have a shortage right across the region. It's not particular to any one area, and we've got schools where there are 3 classes with 2 teachers and a teacher aide having to cover for the 3rd teacher. So it's not a satisfactory situation at all. When we've got the crisis around staffing, we have got a crisis around student learning. Children can't learn without a teacher in front of the classroom. And so we need to put great teachers in front of our students. And we can't have, as a city, we can't have a great city without great schools. We need to plan Auckland schooling as we plan for the city's growth. And there has not been that work being done in the teacher workforce to match that. What we're asking any incoming government is to make quality public education in Auckland a priority in their first 100 days. It's an indicator of the seriousness of this crisis that we have the 4 organisations represented here, plus the support of PPTA. We have a 10-point plan with keys for success that we're announcing this morning. The first 5 actions are focused on getting and keeping great teachers, because that's how we make sure kids get great learning. Currently, 30% of teachers leave after their first 5 years in their career. The remainder of the issues are about genuinely prioritising children with learning and behavioural needs, which helps all children achieve their potential. I'm going to hand over to my colleagues to share the details with you, and I'd start by introducing Martin WEATHERILL, immediate past President of Waitakere Area Principals Association. Kia ora.
Thank you, Kevin. The significance of these 4 groups coming together, it can't be overstated. We represent collectively the majority of principals and teachers both in Auckland and in New Zealand. We spend our lives, for some of us it seems like 24/7, working in an education system trying to get the best for our students. As principals, we often joke that you put 6 teachers in a room, you'll get 6 different opinions on anything. Except that is for now. You put 6 teachers in a room, or the leaders of 4 of the largest educational associations in New Zealand in a room, and you will hear with one voice a single message. The education system is in crisis. In Auckland, we're struggling to recruit, we're struggling to retain teachers. The trickle of economic refugees leaving Auckland is becoming a flood. Our current minister is really keen on data. So let's look very briefly at the data. Auckland Central in 2016, average price of a house was $982,000. Having saved $200,000 for a mortgage, Deposit, no easy feat in itself. Fortnightly payments, $1,900 a fortnight. That's more than a teacher with a degree and 5 years experience earns in a fortnight. So let's do a brief comparison. Upper Hutt, not an economic backwater, 25 minutes from the beehive. Average price of a house, $388,000. Deposit, $80,000. Fortnightly payments, 40% of a teacher's salary with a degree, 5 years experience. It does not take a rocket scientist to work out why teachers are leaving Auckland. That's the reality. We are in crisis. Interesting thing about these figures, though, is they don't also take into things like student loans. Donal was sharing with me this morning, the BTs sitting in this staff room collectively have a debt of over $260,000. That's an average of $40,000 each. Buying a house in Auckland at this point in time for young teachers is an impossible dream. It's as simple as that. Today, collectively, we sit here and we have a challenge to those in government and to those politicians that wish to be in government. The challenge is this: agree today to wipe out student loans for all those teachers that agree to teach in Auckland for 3 years or other hard-to-staff places, because this problem is not just Auckland, it is becoming New Zealand-wide. We've been told that the housing crisis is big, that it will take time to solve. Well, we are experienced teachers. We know how to break problems down into smaller chunks. Wiping student loans is a smaller chunk that could be solved today, if the politicians have the will to actually make a difference. Again, it is simple as that. As we move through this conversation, it becomes really interesting. Young teachers are moving out of Auckland. Those remaining in Auckland are unfortunately getting a little bit longer in the tooth. I wasn't, of course, referring to you, Linda. The number of people training to be teachers is significantly declining. According to the OECD, New Zealand has the third oldest teaching population. In the next 15 years, 1/3 of teachers will retire. And I know I don't show it, but that would include me. The maths around the teaching supply, particularly in Auckland, doesn't look good. The incoming government has to address housing. But bottom line, you want the best and the brightest in front of your children, you need to invest in teachers. You need to invest in a significant pay increase for teachers. Again, it is fairly simple. The key step in solving the teaching crisis, and this is a clear message to the government and to those who want to be part of the government: treat us as professionals. That is something that has been sorely missing over the last 9 years. Treat us as professionals and pay us accordingly. I will now get off my soapbox and pass on to CHERIE TAYLOR-PATEL on behalf of the New Zealand Principals Federation. But before I do, I'm told by our friends in the media that what you need is a soundbite. So here, from Fetu, the president of the New Zealand Principals Federation, is a soundbite. Act now, or your child or your grandchild will not have a teacher. Act now, or your child or your grandchild will not have a teacher. Simple as that. CHERIE?
Kia ora koutou. So every teacher we know wants learning to work for students. And in my own school we talk about ngā whakaparangatanga, and that is about creating optimum conditions for learning. But here's the thing, Optimum conditions for learning are also optimum conditions for teaching. And when we have working environments where teachers enjoy their job and the workload is manageable, there are huge benefits for students and their learning. And this is what our teachers really care about. This is why they're still in the job when the pay is so bad. Teachers want opportunities to teach, to personalise programs, to follow student interests, and to have opportunities to develop innovative programs. Everyone wants that. But these things aren't possible when the workload is not sustainable. We want the next government to commit to smaller class sizes in lower decile schools by 2020. This is an OECD recommendation, and this is about giving our most at-risk students more opportunity for one-to-one time with teachers. But at the same time, it's about making the teaching workload manageable. We also know from the research that the introduction of national standards has created stress and anxiety for both teachers and children. If we want teachers' focus to be on teaching time with students, and if we wanted to reduce student anxiety about learning, we need to scrap over-assessment that is not fit for purpose. We need to get the balance right. Teachers need to be able to do more teaching and less assessing. I'm going to be handing over now to Lynda, whom most of you will know, Lynda Stewart, NZEI Te Roa President. She's going to be talking in more detail about how better support for students with extra learning and behaviour needs is also part of the solution.
Kia ora koutou, ngā mihi nui kia koutou, and it's lovely to be back in Auckland for today, albeit very, very briefly. And this morning, before I came here, I visited the school that I'm on leave from, May Road School, which is in Mount Roskill, and was met with a flurry of issues around special education as I walked in the door. So it was really hard to prise my way away, I have to say, including, and this is a story that many principals and teachers across the motu will understand, someone who has obviously got high mental health issues and is smearing faeces in part of in one of the classrooms. This is what our teachers and our principals face on a daily basis. And people come in, as Cherie and my colleagues have said, they come into teaching with a passion, with a desire to do the very, very best and to make a difference for children. But they can't do that without the resources. And that's what we are talking about this morning. We know as principals, as leaders in this country in education, we know what is needed. We need a support for our teachers to be in hard to staff areas across this country. Auckland has its own special context, its own special needs, and I'm here with my Auckland colleagues this morning. But I know that in other parts of this country we have similar needs as well, and we need to actually remember that today. And that's why we're crying out to the politicians to really hear. So what do we need? We know that there is a growth in the number of children who have special needs. There's a growth in those children who have issues as a result of pee addiction. There is a growth in the number of children who have fetal alcohol syndrome. There is a growth in the number of children who are anxious because of the stress that they have in their lives. There is a growth in the number of children who have huge issues relating to poverty. And there's also a growth in those children who have language and developmental delay. That is the reality for our teachers and our principals and our support staff across this country. What do we need? It's highlighted in the 10-point plan. We need high needs funding to be extended to include mental health, which it doesn't do currently. We need an OARS funding increase from 1% to 3% of the funding currently. We need SENCOs, those special people who work in our schools, special education needs coordinators, who are absolutely not recognised, remunerated or trained currently. Currently we have DPs, APs who are fulfilling those roles, or a teacher who is released for a small amount of time during the week to be able to support and navigate the needs of children. Or sometimes it's the principal who has to fulfil that role. That's what we need. We need more frontline specialist staff. So that's Ministry of Education having more psychologists, speech language therapists, occupational therapists. It's really clear. This is not rocket science, as was said before. And I'm thinking also about our teacher aides, those people who work with our most vulnerable children, our children who need that extra additional support in our schools. They need to be paid properly for what they do. At the moment they are not. Many of them are barely above the minimum wage. They need support, they need training, and we need to have a vision and a plan for our support staff. So what I'm saying here is if we can get this right with the 10-point plan, and we've got the people with political will to actually do this, we can make a huge difference. And if we get it right in Auckland, we can get it right for the rest of the country. It will cost money. Yes, it will. But it's absolutely imperative that we put the money in now to make the difference, because this will change our society for the better. And I think, as somebody said before, what importance do we place on our children? Now's the time to really do it. So what we're saying to all political parties is the situation is desperate. It's time to whakarongo, to listen, and listen hard to the messages that we're giving this morning. We want you to commit to a holistic solution and make it happen for our kids. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. And I think the group will be happy to take any questions.